news capsule. Let's go through the important pieces of news that have appeared in the newspaper for today. So the first news item that is coming your way is an article uh, with respect to the decision that has been delivered by the American Supreme Court on June 29th, and this is in the case Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard, where the United States Supreme Court deemed that race-conscious admission policies at Harvard and the University of North Carolina as unconstitutional and violative of Equal Protection Clause under 14th Amendment of the American Constitution. So the article tries to analyze the legalities of the judgment and then makes a comparison that to what extent affirmative action present within the Indian Constitution, you can say promoted by the Indian Constitution, then to what extent affirmative action policies would be getting affected, if at all they would be getting affected by the jurisprudence, the legal thinking of the American Supreme Court. And why this is so? Because it is a tendency of the various courts that while coming to a decision in a particular court case, the higher judiciary, the Supreme Court and high courts, at times relies upon, cites or uses the logic that is given by the higher judicial higher judicial organs of the various other countries. Now let's see what is this article all about. Now the Supreme Court has given a verdict in this case, Students for Fair Admission versus Harvard, where they have said that race-conscious admission policies at Harvard and University of North Carolina, they are unconstitutional and they are violating Equal Protection Clause that is enshrined in the 14th Amendment of the American Constitution. Now, what was the legal logic that was provided by the American Supreme Court? The Supreme Court underpinned its verdict with 4 reasons. Now, this part of the article gives the reasons. First, it emphasized that Equal Protection Clause is colorblind in the sense that the term equal protection means identical treatment. So whether you are a white or whether you are an African American, a black, Hispanic, that does not matter in front of the eyes of the law, because the 14th Amendment is not focusing on the color of skin. And this is at least the opinion of the Supreme Court. Thus, race-based affirmative action contravenes or goes against this promise of equal protection. Second, it affirmed that any such contravention could only be justified if state has a compelling goal and the affirmative action is absolutely necessary to attain it. The state must articulate this goal clearly to enable judicial scrutiny. The court found that Harvard and University of North Carolina's objectives, such as training future leaders, as commendable, they are good, but they are vague. Meaning thereby that if affirmative action is to happen by disregarding or in a way by going around the Equal Protection Clause, then it should be stated clearly. It should be articulated in a very clear manner so that judicial scrutiny becomes easy. And the court said that the objectives of these institutions, Harvard and University of North Carolina, where they say that they are training future leaders, now this is the court found it to be very vague, very confusing. Now, the third logic given by the court is that the court reiterated an earlier ruling that affirmative action policies should have a sunset clause. Sunset clause means that there should be an end date, meaning thereby if a affirmative action policy is being launched today, then the policy itself should inform that for how many years the affirmative action policy would be continuing, would be running into operation, and when that particular date comes into picture, sunset clause gets operational and the affirmative action policy will come to an end. However, as the court highlighted that both Harvard and UNC lacked this. And lastly, the court held that affirmative action should not rely on racial stereotypes or disadvantage anyone based on race. the two aspects it identified as problematic in this case. Now, this is the legal reasoning that is provided in this article, and legal reasoning which was provided by the American Supreme Court in while delivering the judgment. Now, comparing the American Constitution with the Indian Constitution, and we also are having affirmative action policies that are mentioned in Article 15 and Article 16 of the Indian Constitution. But the article says that both these constitutions, the American and the Indian Constitution, they give a different treatment. They treat affirmative action in a different manner. So the remainder of the portion of the article is dedicated to this line of argument. It says that the Indian and US constitutions are poles apart on how they treat affirmative action. The US Constitution is silent on it, prohibiting only the denial of equal protection, leading to a varied interpretation of this amorphous phrase depending on the judges who are sitting in the court. Whereas if we go for the Indian counterpart, the Indian Constitution, the article says that Indian Constitution is more clear with respect to affirmative action. It expressly allows affirmative action in favor of backward classes in matters of education, as I said earlier, that is in Article 15, and employment, that is jobs, in Article 16. This is the basic difference between the Indian Constitution and the American Constitution, as is highlighted by this portion of the article, that American Constitution is having a very vague language, you can say, whereas Indian Constitution is having a very precise and pinpointed language, that if affirmative action policies are to be implemented, then what would be the goal for which affirmative action policies are to be executed. Now, as per our Constitution, Article 15 and Article 16, it is with respect to education and jobs. Now, the remainder of this portion is an explanation, is an elaboration of these final points that I had just discussed. Moving further, the article tries to make a distinction between formal and substantive equality. With respect to the notion of equality. Now, another distinction is the notion of equality that lays the foundation of affirmative action in both the jurisdictions. The American Constitution seeks to eliminate all distinctions based on race universally, the reason being equality cannot mean different things for different individuals. This applies even for affirmative action that may be justified to undo the historic discrimination faced by the African Americans or Hispanics or other groups. Thus, measures which treat one race as distinct from another in any manner, including a preference in education, are viewed strictly against equality. Now, this, according to the authors of the article, is a relatively narrow view or narrow interpretation of the idea of equality. Whereas India does not treat all distinctions of race or caste alike. Certain classes such as scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and backward classes who have faced discrimination in the past are not considered on the level field with others. To help them achieve equal opportunities, it is imperative that they have access to reservation. And then there is this view of Justice K.K. Matthews that comes into picture. Moving further, the idea of test of constitutionality has also been elaborated upon in this article. Now, the author says that the test to determine whether affirmative action of reservation is constitutional also varies substantially. Again, a comparative analysis is being drawn between the Indian Constitution and the American Constitution. The the United States of America has strict scrutiny of all measures that create distinctions based on race. This means a measure is constitutionally permissible only if it furthers a compelling state interest and is narrowly tailored to achieve such interest. The only permissible state interest in the US is the need for a diverse student body. Whereas in case of India, this is not the case. Indian courts have a very different standard to meet under Article 15 and 16 of the Constitution. Education and public employment are already enshrined in the Constitution as legitimate goals of reservation. The standards adopted by courts in India focuses on whether the class seeking reservation is socially and educationally backward and inadequately represented, meaning thereby the idea of backwardness, social and educational backwardness, and inadequate representation are the benchmarks that are relied upon by the courts in India. In employment, this requires proof of quantifiable data from the states, meaning thereby the states have to prove that a particular class or community or caste which is being given benefit of, or being proposed to be given the benefit of reservation, then the state has to prove that it is inadequately represented. Furthermore, the reservation measures are constitutional, and the interests of non-minority are instead taken care of by capping the reservation at 50%, meaning thereby there is a cap of 50% limit on reservation, and this came through Indira Sahane versus Union of India case. So this was the first article with respect to you can say comparative analysis between the two constitutions, and this is more beneficial for the topic Indian polity of the syllabus of the various competitive examinations. Coming to the next article, now this is more related to the Indian culture and the economic aspect of Indian culture. So the important points, although I have highlighted much of the article, but then again for factual information, please understand that this conference had happened, which highlighted the economic importance of culture, the UNESCO World Conference on Cultural Policies and Sustainable Development. This is the name of the conference, and was held to address the contemporary issues in multicultural societies, and the goal was to share a vision for the future of cultural policies and to reaffirm the international community's commitment to leveraging culture's transformative powers for sustainable development. And then the article goes on elaborating that how the economy which could be benefited by taking into account the cultural aspects of the society, like artwork, like dance forms, all these things this article deals with, and what can be done by the government, what can be done by the civil society, what can be done by the private sector in improving that cultural economy aspect of what is called as the Indian economy. So you can go through this article, you can mark the important sections over here, but this section becomes most important. The conference, the name of the conference itself becomes more important, I would say. Moving on to the next news. This is related to Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Now, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, as you know, is very much in news. Again, this is beneficial for both international relation component and science and technology component of the syllabus. Now, why this is in news? Primarily because it is a nuclear power plant situated in the middle of a war zone, and there is always a fear that if a missile or some ammunition lands on the structure of the power plant, then there could be again negative scenes that the world witnessed previously with respect to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Now, although it is an analysis coming from a think tank, but then again the important point that is related to the nuclear power plant, the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, is with respect to its design specifications. And this is the important point, although there are other important points as well, where certain other things have been discussed, and I will come to it in a few minutes. But then again, this is the important point, this paragraph. What is the reactor design? So these 2-3 paragraphs are important paragraphs with respect to what is called as the examination. Now, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is located southwest of Zaporizhia city. along the river Dnieper. It has 6 VVER 1000 reactors. VVER 1000 is the name of the model of the reactor for the total power generation capacity of 6 gigawatt. The reactor complex consists of reactor vessel in which uranium dioxide fuel rods are immersed in water and control rods are inserted at the top. The water is both coolant and moderator, and the pressurizer holds the water at high but constant pressure around 150 atmospheres. ATM here means atmosphere, to prevent it from boiling. And this is the primary cooling circuit. As the water heats up, the heat is moved to a secondary cooling circuit where it converts a separate volume of water into steam. This steam is fed into turbines to generate electricity. Now, this is the basic design specifications of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. And this portion of the article tells that how this Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, this design of this nuclear power plant are different from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Now, Chernobyl nuclear power plant was an RBMK reactor, and the coolant and the moderator are different in the RBMK reactor. Light water and nuclear graphites are used, and which is radioactive for having been exposed to nuclear fuel, and at the same time the water flows out of the reactor vessel. So this is more important, I would say, for the purpose of preliminary examination. This piece of information is more important, where a comparison has been made between the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the nuclear reactor, the model of the nuclear reactor with respect to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Now, the remainder of the article is more of contemplation of various scenarios, that what could happen if the if the nuclear power plant is hit by ammunition, is hit by some ammunition, then what will happen, and what would be the risk factors associated with it. So this you can go through this remainder of the article. It is written in simple English language, and certain facts that what would be the situation in the eventuality of an accident has been highlighted. Now, for example, the principal danger is that the primary circuit water could depressurize as steam and escape into the air along with radioactive material and other volatile substances. This mixture will contain an isotope of iodine 131, which is easily dispersed by the wind and accumulates in and damages the thyroid gland in humans. Its half-life is around 8 days. So as per the report, the analysis, the organization which has given this analytical report, would only pose a threat for several weeks. A breach and depressurization would also release cesium-137, which has a half-life of 30 years and was responsible for the contamination of much of Chernobyl's surrounding after accident. This is another threat that has been highlighted in this article. So you can go through this article, a very informative one. Moving on to the next one. Now, this is again an important news with respect to Iran's entry into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And the article gives information about the basic information about that what is Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And it was initially named as Shanghai 5, a grouping of Russia, China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, which came together in the post-Soviet era in 1996 in order to work on a regional security, reduction of border troops, and terrorism. In 2001, Shanghai 5 inducted Uzbekistan into the group and named it SCO. So the name Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, came into picture in the year 2001 when Uzbekistan was granted an entry into the grouping. Previously, the grouping was called as Shanghai 5. In 2001, with the entry of Uzbekistan, it became SCO. Now, the latest entrant in this is what is called as Iran, who has come. Why is Iran has made an entry, and why is Iran's induction significant? This portion of the article highlights that. Now, while the SCO's original goal focused more on stability and security, Recent declarations have put the focus squarely on connectivity in the region. Now, what is being discussed over here? Essentially, it is the main goals of SCO and how these goals of SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, they have modified over time. This is being discussed and deliberated upon. Now, SCO describes its main goal as strengthening mutual trust and neighborliness among the members, promoting their effective cooperation in politics, trade, economy, research, and technology, and culture, making joint efforts to maintain and ensure peace, security, and stability in the region, and moving towards the establishment of a democratic, fair, and rational new international political and economic order. This is the stated goals. But how it has changed, it is because the classic example in this regard is the Iran's induction, and how it is significant and how goals have been modified is being discussed over here. Now, what would be the implication of the entry of Iran into the SCO is being talked about over here. For India, this has built its connectivity strategy through Iran's Chabahar port, where it operates a terminal, and through the international north-south trade north-south transport corridor that goes through Iran and Central Asia to Russia. The entrance of Iran is an important milestone. So the article considers that entry into Iran is an important milestone. Go through this article. Please go through this article. Much of analysis has been provided and much beneficial for the international relations component of the syllabus. Again in news, data protection bill that has been in news say very much since the judgment of the Puttaswamy Puttaswamy case, and the union cabinet has given a nod to data protection bill. It would be introduced in the monsoon session, as the news states. And now what are the components of the, or you can say the proposals? What are the proposals in this regard? Now the article gives the information that the data protection, along with the data protection bill, the government may also table Indian communications bill, a draft of which was circulated for public consultation last year. The telecommunications bill, the telecom bill, will overhaul the Telegraph Act, which is the legal framework for telecom firms and internet service providers. This is one piece of information. Then the bill. Now the bill in this portion, it is related to the data protection bill. The bill essentially allows laypersons to complain to a data protection board consisting of technical experts constituted by the government if they have reason to believe that their personal data has been used without their consent. Now the article gives the information that the data protection bill relies heavily upon the European Union law, and it says that the European Union law, the bill draws from an EU law, European Union law, the General Data Protection Regulation, and benchmarks 23 instances in which taking consent for recording data is not possible. Apart from this, the article informs that the proposed bill will also be containing the quantum of penalties that would be levied on people who go for unauthorized usage of data, and the information is provided over here in this regard as well. So this is all related to the data protection bill. Now this is a developing story. As of now, it is just a bill that would be presented in the parliament. It is a developing story. As and when the more information would be coming, it would be definitely coming your way. Moving forward to the next piece of information. Now this is related to the grain deal, food grains deal that was entered into between Russia and the West, and the deadline for this grains deal to become over is July 17, and the information is about that. Now Black Sea Grain Initiative deals. Now this is related to the export of food grains to the various parts of the world, and obviously transshipment of such food grains happens through sea, through the sea route. But then again, because of the war that is going on in that region, a safe route was devised, and Turkey brokered the deal. It facilitated the deal, became the broker in the deal, and the deal was facilitated by UN, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. But then again, the deadline for that deal is coming to an end, and American authorities are saying that Indian government should, put some sense into the Russian authorities for the continuation or the extension of this deal. So this is the information. To be more precise, this the name of the deal, Black Sea Grain Initiative, and the deadline that is coming into picture, and who brokered the deal, it is Turkey, and who facilitated the deal, it is the United Nations Secretary General. I'm sorry. Coming to the next piece of information, it is related to Chandrayaan. This is Chandrayaan 3, which will be launched, and the news gives the information that Chandrayaan 3, the payload has been integrated with the launch vehicle LMV-3. Now LMV Mark 3. Now this is the information. Now the news report says this, that ISRO is yet to announce a launch date, but they had given a window between July 12 and 14. Now this declaration was made, this announcement was made by S. Somnath, who is the ISRO chairman. And Chandrayaan 3, the article gives some basic information. Details obviously would be coming later when the launch successfully takes place. That Chandrayaan 3 is a third moon mission, India's third moon mission, followed by Chandrayaan 2, to demonstrate end-to-end capability in safe landing and roving on the lunar surface. Now, what all is the composition of this mission? It consists of an indigenous lander module, propulsion module, and a rover with the objective of developing and demonstrating new technologies required for interplanetary missions. So this again is a developing story. As and when the new information comes, specifically the new information analysis will come after the what is called as the successful launch, and obviously it will be coming your way then. Moving further, now this news is related to a statement that has been made by R.K. Singh, Union Power Minister. And what does it lead to? This leads to this clean energy, and India is not hesitant on imposing barriers to clean energy imports. That is the heading of the newspaper article, where it says, where it is mentioned that Mr. R.K. Singh, Union Power Minister, had said that India would not shy from imposing barriers on Western imports for clean energy if the Western countries raise barriers on Indian potential exports of green hydrogen. Now, what is green hydrogen? Green hydrogen is what you can say ecologically pure hydrogen that is being made, and environmentally clean hydrogen that comes into picture. And the utility of green hydrogen is mentioned at this component, that green ammonia is made from hydrogen produced from renewable energy sources and nitrogen, and is a key industrial chemical. So in this entire article, the important piece of information is at this point, at this location, where it gives a some basic information about what is called as green ammonia. Now, green ammonia is made from hydrogen produced from renewable energy sources and nitrogen, and is a key industrial chemical. Indian industry has reportedly told the government that some clauses of the tender, now this is the tender that they are talking about. At this point, the ministry, this is the information related to the tender which has been invited for green ammonia imports by the European Union. When the Indian industry wants to get into the market, but then again Indian industry has highlighted that some of the clauses in the tender are going against the interests of the Indian industry. And in response to this, it is the statement of RK Singh that Indian government could also consider thinking imposition of barriers with respect to Indian imports, Western imports, uh, if they come to India. Now, this is the piece of information, but then again, it is a building story. Geopolitics apart, the important piece of information is this much only, that what is green ammonia. Moving further, now this is related to that the case that is being filed by USA, Canada, Sweden, and Ukraine, where they aim to take Iran to the UN top court, that is International Court of Justice, with respect to the shooting down of Ukrainian passenger airline in the year 2020, where 176 passengers had died. Now, the four countries have gone to International Court of Justice with the plea that the ICJ to orders Tehran to apologize, Tehran in the sense the country, Iran, to apologize for the act and to pay compensation to the families of the victim. Now, this is the flight name PS752, which was traveling from Tehran to Kiev. Now, on 8th January 2020, it was shot down soon after its takeoff. Uh, the Iranian government initially was avoiding the questions, was saying that that nothing of this sort has happened, wrongdoing has happened from on their part. But later on, they admitted that one of the Revolutionary Guard member, shot down the aircraft. Now, this is related to again international relations, and these are the countries are going to the have gone to the ICJ. UK, Canada, Sweden, and Ukraine. Why? Because the passengers were from these respective countries. Moving to the last piece of information, this is global rupee. Global rupee may rise volatility, and the idea is the basically this news is in the follow up. You can say that there is this discussion regarding internationalization of rupee, Indian rupee, Indian official currency. And this report, this newspaper article comes as a result of a research paper, you can say, which has been brought out by the interdepartmental group of officials of the Reserve Bank of India, where this group of officials of Reserve Bank of India have cautioned that the internationalization of rupee may result in increased volatility in rupees exchange rates in the initial stages. So this is first and foremost, please understand that this, as the article itself in its concluding portion says, that it is just the view of the IDG, interdepartmental group of officials of the RBI, and it is in no way reflecting the official position of the Reserve Bank of India. But then again, it is a point of view and it should be taken into account. And the important point is here that this would further have monetary implications. This would have further monetary implications. What would have further monetary implications? The internationalization of Indian rupee, as the obligations of the country to supply its currency to meet global demands may come in conflict with the domestic monetary policies, which is popularly known as the Triffin dilemma. So this gives an information, a hint to another economic term, Triffin dilemma. Now, what is Triffin dilemma with respect to this? I will make a separate video and share with you. So this is with respect to you can say the important news of the day. So I'll see you in the next session. Thank you very much.